Hey guys, welcome back. We've got another trade for you guys today. As it gets closer to the trade deadline, we're seeing we're seeing the damn wall break and a lot of trades coming through at the moment. The latest one's come through today is the Toronto Maple Leafs have acquired Jake McCabe, Sam Lafferty, a 2024 fifth round pick, which is conditional, with the conditions being that it's basically the lowest of the two picks that Chicago owns at the time of the draft, and a 2025 fifth round pick, also conditional. I'm assuming both of them are the same conditions. It doesn't actually state here. Um, and then Chicago Blackhawks acquire Joey Anderson, Pavel Gogolev, a 2025 first round pick, which is conditional, only being that it's top 10 protected, a 2026 second round pick, and that's it. That basically sums up the two. It's for me, it's a good get for Toronto. It really does feel a need that they required on the defensive front. Jake McCabe fitting into their second line center, probably playing alongside um Giordano. And Sam Lafferty just does that. Probably fits on the fourth line slash depth sort of player. Um, so yeah, from first perspective, I feel like this is a really good pickup from Toronto, and um, what they've given up. Although if you look at the picks they still have, it's not a huge amount. I think it's still a good get for Chicago for what the players are, but Toronto haven't had to give up overly too much to sort of get what they kind of need right now.
Yeah, it's interesting they get 50% retained on McCabe because he's got 2 more years after this year. So that's handy for them going forward in regards to cap troubles. Uh, my issue with this trade on the Blackhawks front is I think that 25 first round picks just a little bit later than I would have liked. I would have liked them to get the 24th first round pick from Toronto. In regards to Toronto's side of things, uh, GM comes out and says, they're not going all out. They're just building shit and building their staff and their team. But honestly, I feel like with these moves, they really are going all out. Granted, their team looks different compared to previous seasons, but this really is an all-out move in regards to what their draft status in their picks remaining for the next 3 years look like. I think they've only got one of their last firsts over the 3 years in 24. They've traded first and second round of this year, and they've traded their picks in 25 as well. So I like it. A second line defender, fourth line or depth forward. It's what they need in regards to competing hard in the playoffs. I worry about how it's going to affect them long term with their depth. In regards to drafting though.
Yeah, I mean it definitely does hurt not having any real picks at all over the next few years. But at the same time, I feel like if you're a Toronto fan, you'd much rather see them get past the first round and potentially go on to win a cup or go as deep as you can than hold back, I guess, and eventually dwindle away because then they're not going to be as strong as they are right now forever. Um, and they've got obviously Austin Matthews coming out of contract at the end of next year. John Tavares only has another 2 years left after this year. Staying with Marner, and Nylander is only got the year left as well. So it, they're all UFAs. They may sign on, who knows? But there's a lot of UFA contracts on the Toronto Maple Leafs right now. So there's a good chance that they're not as strong as they are right now ever again. So I fully understand why they've gone all in on this. And defense has been a big issue for Toronto for a long time now. and I feel like Jake McCabe sort of fills that void quite well. He's pretty solid defender. The only issue I probably have with him there is that he doesn't have any playoff experience. Um, so he doesn't really add anything on that front. But overall, I think he's a pretty sound defenseman. So um, and he plays reasonable minutes as well. So he's going to fit right in on that second line. And hopefully shore up that defense where they've been lacking a little bit.
Yeah. Well, he's what 21st in the league with players 200 minutes or more for shots blocked per 60. So he's kind of like that Giordano in that sense with the shot blocking. And when you put that on, that's what you need in regards to playoffs is someone who's going to throw their body, and it's not a star player in a sense. The block those shots. In regards to Chicago, they get Joey Anderson. There was a lot of hype around him with New Jersey. He just hasn't panned out in the NHL. I'm not too sure if Chicago can make him pan out. Hopefully he can get more ice time in the NHL if he does play in the NHL for Chicago. And then they get an ECHL pick in Pavel Gogolov. He's basically can't break it into the AHL. And then their picks are a bit late for me in regards to fixing their rebuild. So I feel like it's a little underwhelming for Chicago's side. I think it's fair deal on regards to Toronto's side.
Yeah, it's definitely. I, I do agree with you in a sense on that 2025. I think if they could have made it a 2024 first round, it probably helps them sooner rather than later. The only thing I will say for that is, who knows? Toronto may absolutely capitulate once, in a couple of seasons' time if Austin Matthews doesn't re-sign and Nylander doesn't re-sign with them. They may be headed in the other direction. So that 2025 first round pick might end up being, between 11 and 20, compared to potentially being in 2024 potentially being a 25 to 30 if they can finally get through the first round. So yeah, I kind of get it a little bit, but also understand that I think from a Blackhawks perspective, they're probably thinking that their rebuild's going to be at least 3 to 4 years minimum. So that pick is still going to be somewhat relevant to them. Um, But yeah, I mean, I guess until you see what it turns out to be, you don't really know if it was a good decision or not. We'll have to sort of revisit at the end of 2025 when the draft comes and round, and sort of see where that 2024 first round ended and where the 2025 first round ended, and sort of
Mm.
take it from there.
Or if he does pair
But
up with
overall, I don't mind it.
yeah, if he does pair up with Giordano, that's a very heavy shot blocking double defensive core, which is pretty sound. That's pretty good second line. Giordano is 36 in the league at the moment in regards to shot blocks per 60. So yeah, like they're getting the same type of player in regards to Giordano, and Giordano's kind of worked out for them. So I think it should work out for them. It's definitely showing they're going all out, even though Jubestedt said they weren't. I think if this doesn't work out, I think he's out of a job anyway. I don't know if they fire him if they get kicked out in the first round this year, but how Mana, Nylander, all those type of players deal with that situation, and Matthews doesn't resign or something like that, I feel like that's him losing his job. So I don't think
Yeah.
I think he's going all out. Like this is my Hail Mary. If we don't do it now, I'm out of my job anyway. So
Well, exactly. I mean, you can only take so many first round exits. But look, to be honest with you, the, the goaltending has been better from them this year. I know they had a bit of a hiccup throughout, but overall their goaltending's reasonably sound. Their forwards, as we know, are really really good. they add Sam Lafferty, who gives them a bit of that depth, and he can score goals as well for a guy. Sort of, he's been playing a little bit higher minutes for Chicago, obviously, given where Chicago are, but he's still put 10 goals up on the season so far. So, um, the guy can can be responsible on the ice and also chip in here and there. So that's not a bad pickup either. But the Jake McCabe part of it is big for me. They've addressed that their defense is the issue. And they've gone out and got a bloke that, yeah, like you said, 21st in block shots. He puts his body on the line, which, even though he hasn't played playoffs, is going to come in handy come playoff time with the guy who isn't afraid to sort of put a hit on, take a block shot, put his body on the line for the team. Honestly, I'll put it out now. I'd be very surprised. I know they're coming up against Tampa, but I really do think it's the year that they get out of the first round. I think, as much as everyone likes to make fun of them, I think it's time, and I think they deserve to sort of get out of that first round. And I'd be really interested to see if they do, just how far they can get, because I think with that monkey off their back, um, they're quite geared to go forward fast.
Yeah, it's going to be rough in the East. You really can't tell. We know two teams at least, quality teams, are getting knocked out in the first round, which is very
Yeah,
disappointing. And it's hard for Toronto and Jubis and whatnot. They've kind of kicked in their gear. When Boston and Tampa, Colorado, like these teams that have just gone crazy in regards to their dynasties. Um, and then they've just peaked at kind of one of the worst times in that regard. You got McDavid on. I know Oilers haven't done too much, but they got the conference final last year. So yeah, it's interesting. I wouldn't put it too much hate on them in regards to if they did get knocked out in the first round, just because of how unlucky it is to come up with a quality opponent. But I feel like they have to do it. You have to do it. Um,
yeah,
and the question is, McCabe and Lafferty help you do that? I think they do. They don't lose anything in regards to their roster and getting them. So in all, it's a good trade. I lean slightly towards Toronto just because of the first round and second round pick for Chicago just being a little bit later than I would have liked. But they still get draft picks and depth or prospects in that regard for Chicago's sake. So all in all, I'd say fair deal, slightly towards Toronto, and it makes them a better team, which you want to see. And yeah, that's all I got to say.
yeah. No, I agree with you there. I think it's a relatively fair deal. I think the only thing that makes you question it is, obviously what Tampa Bay paid for Tanner Jeannot yesterday. But I think it's relatively fair. Chicago potentially could have gotten a little bit more out of it, but overall they get what they need. Toronto get what they need, and yeah, we move on from there. But yeah, guys, as always, let us know what you think in the comments below. Do you think this is a win-win trade for both? Do you like the moves? Do you think, Chicago should have got more, or do you think Toronto didn't get the players they quite need? Um, and yeah, let us know below. If you like the video, give us a big thumbs up. And if you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button. And until next time, guys, take care.
Cheerio.